Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is RetroDog34, and in this week's video we're going to be talking about one of my solo builds. This is the Shield Blade, which is a Nightblade Hybrid solo build. Now when I say solo, it does not mean that you cannot run this with PvE in the PvE content with groups. This does very well with group content, but typically, when I do solo type builds, it is primarily wrapped around, going into public dungeons, going into dungeons, either on normal or on vet, and also soloing world bosses. So I don't want to, confuse the community and let you guys think that you cannot run this with a group. You can definitely run this with group content. One thing that I do want to put out as a disclaimer is this build is going to have a couple changes and possibly a couple buffs. With update 33, there's going to be quite a few changes that are coming, and I'm looking forward to a lot of those. So one other thing I do want to point out in this video, and probably going forward in a lot of my update videos or build videos, I'm going to have jump points. So if you want to go to, a certain spot in my video where you want to see the character attributes or skills or champion points or weapons that I'm running, you can go ahead and jump to that now and see exactly where I start talking about those. So without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so one thing I really kind of want to hit on is you can play any race that you want with this build. I'm playing a high elf, but it does not mean that you have to stick with the high elf as far as race goes. I chose the high elf because, one, truthfully, I didn't have a high elf and I wanted to go ahead and build one, and this is kind of like where I used that race with this type of build. Doesn't mean that you'd have to stick with this. I would definitely recommend Imperial. Imperial is by far one of my favorite races, and I think it's the OP race in Elder Scrolls Online. So hopefully Zos doesn't hear this video and kind of piggyback and go ahead and nerf them. I truly believe Imperial race is the best race in Elder Scrolls Online. But as far as this character goes and this build, I'm using the High Elf as the template, but you can by all means go ahead and change it. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at the actual character and the attributes. All right, so what I went and I did 24 in magic, 0 in health, and 40 in stamina. This gives me a huge maximum magicka of 22,442, health of 22,422, and max stamina of 24,754. Now my spell crit is 51, and my weapon crit is a huge 63.1. That is huge, especially with this type of build. It is very crit heavy, so it's definitely going to be one of those fun things or fun builds to run around and just like start nuking stuff all over the place. Magicka recovery is a 743, and health recovery is a 459, with a huge pool of stamina recovery at 1800. So that is a great stamina recovery, considering that this is primarily a stamina kind of heavy as far as skills go, but you do have some magic abilities in there tossed in. That's why it is a hybrid build. So let's go ahead and jump a little further down. All right, so again, looking at this, the advanced stats, these are, break free costs, are fire resist. They're relatively normal. This is not buffed out, so this is just a straight out. When we get down into our active effects, this is from a fortified mill. This is just common mill that you can pick up when you log in and get your daily login. Mill. This isn't anything. This is typically what I run when I do content. Boon is the Thief, which gives a weapon and spell crit strike rating at 2019. Also, we're also getting an increase to our critical damage by 10% with minor force. And we're going to also get, that's coming from gear. So the minor force is strictly coming from a gear, and I'll go ahead and show you exactly what gear I'm running for that. So you guys can see why it's constantly active. All right, and we're also having Major Savagery, which is increase your weapon critical rating by 2629. So again, those are great skills right off the bat. So let's go ahead and get into the skills. So we got Camouflage Hunter, and this is going to be great. You want to make sure you run it on your primary. So invoke the expertise in anatomy and enemy behavior to detect stealth and invisible enemies around you for 5 seconds. Exposed enemies cannot return to the stealth or invisibility for 4 seconds. While slotted, this is the reason why you have it, you gain Major Savagery, increasing your weapon critical rating by 2629. You also gain Major Berserk for 5 seconds after you deal critical damage from an enemy's flank, increasing your damage done by 5%. This is critical to have on your front bar. What I did notice, and thank you to huge shout out to Gren in the community, he noticed that I had this on my back bar for some reason. And when I slotted to the front, it hugely increased my critical damage. All right, so next up we got Carve. Focus your strength into the Mighty Swing, dealing 4873 bleed damage to enemies in front of you and causing them to bleed for an additional 6576 bleed damage over 12 seconds. The bleed stacks up to 3 times. You can also gain a damage shield that absorbs 5094 damage for 6 seconds. We're also going with Grim Focus. Focus your senses for 40 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 60 with every light or heavy attack up to 5 times. While active, hitting an enemy with 5 light attack or heavy attacks converts this ability to Assassin's Will, allowing you to fire a spectral arrow for half the cost to deal 11,225 magic damage and healing for 33% of the damage dealt if you are within melee range. Try to keep this up as often and as long as you can. This is going to be a huge buff for you to do max amount of damage. So you definitely want to try to keep this up at all times. All right, so next up is Killer's Blade. This is our executable. Thrust a Cosmic Blade with lethal precision to stab an enemy, dealing 3,248 disease damage, deals 300% more damage to enemies below 25 health. This also heals you for 4631 if the enemy dies within 2 seconds of being struck. This portion of the ability scales off your max health. So this is the executable when you get into the 25% range. So this is one of those that, you know, it's kind of interesting. You could also run this down in your two-handed, and that's Reverse Slice. So Reverse Slice deals spin around and strike an enemy down, dealing 3,248 physical damage. Deals up to 300% more damage to enemies with less than 50%. Other enemies nearby take 75% of the damage inflicted to the primary target. So again, depending on the situation that you're running, depends on which one you want to slot. So I would definitely go ahead and get these as high as possible. Go ahead and get them to level 4. And depending on what content you're running, I would either switch back and forth. But either one is a great executable. All right, so next up is Wrecking Blow. Slam an enemy with an upward swing, dealing 7,637 physical damage. This also grants you Empower for 3 seconds, increasing the damage of your light and heavy attacks by 40%. This is our main spammable, so definitely use that. Soul Harvest is our ultimate. So you're going to ravage an enemy with a spinning attack, dealing 10,398 magic damage and increasing your damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. This is fairly cheap. It's only 70 ultimate. This also afflicts the enemy with minor or major defile, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 16%. While slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. This is on your front bar. This is your main ultimate spammable. Definitely use it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about our back bar. So I have Unstable Wall of Frost. I'm using a Frost Staff, and I'll talk about that. And it creates an icy barrier, dealing 855 frost damage to enemies in the area every 1 second, and applying an Unstable Frost Shield for 6 seconds on you and nearby allies that absorb up to 7,289 damage from projectiles. The chilled enemies become immobilized for 4 seconds when the effect ends, the barrier explodes, dealing 4/457 frost damage and applying unstable frost shield for 6 seconds to you and nearby allies that absorbs up to 3,528 damage from projectiles. This is great when running solo content, so that way and you know the archers are going to be shooting arrows at you, this is one of those shields that helps with reduce that. Next up is Dark Cloak. You definitely want to have this running. Shroud yourself in a protective shadow to heal for 2,357 every 1 second over 4 seconds. This portion of the ability scales off your max health. You also gain minor protection for 11 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 5%. This is a great mitigation skill, so definitely have that. Twisting Path. Create a corridor of shadows granted you and your allies in the area major expedition, increasing your movement speed by 30%. Affected persists for 4 seconds after leaving the path, dealing 1672 magic damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. This part of the ability scales off your highest offensive stat. Again, this is just really kind of slotted for your movement speed, but it also does a nice little magic damage to enemies that are in the target area. So again, this is up in your face type of combat, so this is great for that. Next up is your heal. This is going to be your leeching. Imbue your weapons with the soul stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1582 health and restore 106 stamina for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You restore up to 4,270 additional stamina when the effect ends based on length of time leeching strikes is applied. Next up is Power Execution. Siphon the vigor from your enemy's blood, dealing 4,359 disease damage to all nearby enemies. If an enemy is hit, you apply a minor cowardness to them for 9 seconds, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 215. You also gain major brutality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. This is huge. Try to keep all these up as long as possible, or as often as possible. Next up is Soul Tether. This is your ultimate. This one's a little more expensive with 150, but not hugely. Ravage nearby enemies' souls with a night rune, dealing 8,912 magic damage, healing for half the damage and stunning them for 4 seconds. Ravaged enemies are tethered to you for 8 seconds while they remain within 10 meters. You siphon 1,693 health from them every second. An ally can target a ravaged enemy and activate the Soul Tether synergy, dealing 7,811 magic damage to them and healing for the damage caused. Great ultimate, but again, this is on our back bar. I use this when I go into large groups and I can go ahead and tether from them. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and get into our weapon. All right, so I'm using the Medusa set. On my main bar, I'm using a Life Drain enchantment and Precise, which Life Drain deals 1929 magic damage and restores 866 health. With the Precise, it increases my weapon and spell crit by 6.2%. So again, this is a 5-piece set. And the one thing you want to notice is all the way down to item number 5, which gives 850 crit chance. It gives 626. You also gain major force at all times, increasing your critical damage by 10%. So this is where I was talking about on earlier when I was talking about the attributes. So this is primarily that one ability is coming from this set. So you're gaining major force at all times, which is huge. So on the body, I'm running Hexasword, which is a great set. This one I need to change. Apparently, I have this as an impen, but I use, you should be running Divines and max stamina enchantments. So again, this adds 641 crit chance. This is huge. As far as the Divines go, I went ahead and changed them all. So it adds my stamina and increases with the Mundus Stone affected by 921. So you definitely want to run Divines on the body pieces and not impen. I don't know why I even had that. So again, 2 items add 641 crit chance. 3 items add 126 weapon and spell damage. Number 4 adds 641 critical chance. And number 5, dealing direct critical damage grants you a damage shield that absorbs up to 13,821 damage for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 7 seconds. This is great. Now, as far as my monster set goes, I'm running Celine's on this, but anything that gives a offensive ability, Celine's is by and far one of my favorite pieces to run. Now let's go ahead and get into our champion points. So I'm going to do this a little different. So champion points have been out, 2.0 been out for a while. So what I want to do is actually just jump into which ones I have slotted in my champion bar. So the first one up is Fighting Finesse, which increases your critical damage and critical healing done by 2% per stage. So this gives me a 10%. Dealing Deadly Aim gives you an increase your damage done with a single target attack by 2%. Biting Aura increase your damage done with area effect attacks by 2%. And Thermigate, which increase your damage done with damage over time effects by 2%. So again, I didn't want to get into a whole, like, where did I slot each one? How much did I put in this? Champion Points 2.0 has been out for a while, so we don't need to get into all of that. Just kind of what I went ahead and put as far as into my champion bar. These are next up that you can go ahead and rotate. I put Backstabber, which increases your critical damage by 3% against enemies you are flanking. So if you're running PvE content, swap it out and put that in. Endless Endurance, again, increases your Magicka stamina, and Arcane Supremacy increases your Magicka. So again, depending on how you're playing, you can swap those out, but I would definitely look at putting points into those. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and take a look at our red bar. This is our red tree, right? We're going to, again, just look at the champion bar and what I have. Bastion. So this increases the effectiveness of your damage shields and damage against shielded enemies by 3%. Bloody Renewal. This restores 300 stamina per stage whenever you kill an enemy. So this is a current bonus of 15. Rejuvenation grants 1.8 health, magicka, and stamina recovery per stage. So that's huge. And Boundless Vitality grants 28 max health per stage. Now, again, I have others in there, but those are my 4 main that I run. And in our green tree, these are kind of the staple. So you need Steed's Blessing, which increases your out of combat movement speed by 0.4, and your liquid efficiency. Whenever you use a potion or a poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. Rationeer adds 10 minutes to the duration of any food or drink. So that's always a huge plus. And then the last one, Treasure Hunter, increase the quality of items you find in your treasure chest. All right, so next up, I want to talk about the slottables. So I mentioned the food that I was using earlier. I do have Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This is the best food that you could use for your build, but I also use the Crown Fortified meals on a regular basis. The reason why is you get a bunch of them from your daily login. So just go ahead and use those up for like doing PvE content or running through normal dungeons, maybe even some world bosses. But if you're getting stuck in certain things, like you want to run veteran dungeons, doing solo runs, I would definitely look at Bewitched Sugar Skulls. They are definitely a lot better than the Crown Fortified meal. Even though the Crown Fortified meal is good, the one thing that it's missing is the health recovery. See, the health recovery gives you 462. There's also a little bit more buff on the magicka and stamina. So definitely look at either getting Bewitched Sugar Skulls or on a regular basis, just run your Crown Fortified meal. All right, so I hope you guys have liked this video so far, and if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps out my channel and definitely helps out with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys have any suggestions or any questions about this build, go ahead and drop them into the comment section below, and I will answer them as fast as possible. If you can't, if you really want to get a hold of me quickly, you could jump into the Discord where we chat daily about Elder Scrolls Online and different MMOs that are out there. Just recently, we've been, as a community, looking at Lost Ark, and I've been playing a lot of Valheim just recently. So like anything in life, I'm not going to give up Elder Scrolls Online. I love this game. I love the lore of this game, but I kind of needed a break from it, and I've found some fun in Valheim and in Lost Ark. So if you want, jump into the Discord and we could chat it up. Also, you could find me on Twitch over at RetroDog34, where I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You can jump in and ask me any questions over there live, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can about any game out there or any MMO. I've been playing since literally 99, just about every MMO that's been out there. You can also follow me over on Instagram at RetroDog34, where I do daily inspirational posts and clips of my gameplay. If you want, you can go ahead and DM me over there, and I'll try to respond back if you have any questions about this build. So, like always, hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to the conversations with you in the comment sections or over on Discord or in Twitch. And like always, happy adventuring in Elder Scrolls Online.